Hey there, I'm Ben. iPhone 12 Pro Max, 5 years later. Okay, so today we've got the iPhone 16 Pro Max on deck, and let's just start the review with the camera button. Psych! I'm not gonna talk about Apple's boring ass new phones. Everyone's doing that. And let's be honest, a camera button, really? This was the height of innovation for this year? I guess it has to be because it certainly fucking wasn't Siri. That being said, I'm making this because I wish more YouTubers talked about stuff like this. How tech ages. Yes, it takes longer to make, years even, but people should know how their product is going to age, just as much as whether or not the latest and greatest features are really that late or great at all. And yes, I will be making comparisons to the latest model because that's what I upgraded to, but what eventually killed my iPhone 12 Pro Max? Well, let's get into it. Beginning as always with fit, finish, and physicality. Something that really stunned and amazed me about the quality of 12 was the quality of the screen. Partly because I'm an idiot and partly because I wanted to test Ceramic Shield, I never used a screen protector with this phone, and honestly, I have to say, I'm so impressed with how this device performed. So sometimes I wear jumping stilts. It does so well at Pride parades, and one day while I was out training, I dropped my phone. Normally not a huge deal, but at this point I'm like 7 feet tall, and I dropped my phone onto concrete, where it then tumbled into a gravel pit. There was some local construction nearby. I know it sounds kind of made up, but that's actually what happened, and I was completely shocked that my phone survived without a problem, not even a scratch on the screen. Actually, to this day, there are no major cracks. There are, however, a bunch of smaller scratches which are now evident. What's concerning to me is that I've had my 16 for maybe 2 months, and I can see that there are already some minor scratches. They were faint enough that I struggled to get video of them, but it's really concerning to me that I'm seeing minor damage after just 2 months. Kind of makes me wonder if Apple is cheaping out or changing its recipe for Ceramic Shield. Next, let's talk about the body and the case. Here's the deal. I had this phone for about 5 years. I dropped it many times. It was in the case pretty much the entire time. The case cost about 80 bucks, and it looks like it's been through World War III. Many pieces have broken off, and a less determined reviewer would have just thrown this case away. But I am cheap, and also I like pushing things to their limits. So I'm of two minds with regards to Apple's glass back designs. On the one hand, it seems crazy to add more glass to a product that is already so fragile. The other half of me thinks this may be why the screen lasted for as long as it did. As you can see, the glass on the back is shattered to fuck, and my very limited knowledge of physics makes me think that the impact absorption may be why this screen has no actual breaks in it. There does seem to be some science behind this, and let's be honest, we were going to always be putting a case over it anyway. Lastly, I just wanted to say that the best improvement that Apple has made in its iPhones in the last 10 years is one that they fought and were actually forced to make. That's USB-C. The adoption of USB-C has been a game changer for me. I only need one cable now. I can plug normal thumb drives into my phone. It's stupid how simple this is, but as someone with a good number of devices around me, it has drastically improved the quality of my life. Next, let's talk about screen quality. As I've noted, I'm very impressed with the longevity of the 12 screen. That said, this was also one of the reasons I decided to finally upgrade. The reality here is that in the last 3 months of use, there was always this invisible finger phenomenon. Basically, when I was using my phone, it felt like there was an extra finger on the glass. The screen was at times unresponsive, sometimes doing weird phantom touches. Basically, typing and navigation became really frustrating. I noticed that cleaning the screen and rebooting the phone helped a little bit, but the issue got worse and worse as time went on. And I was finding that in the summer, my 12 screen brightness is a little lacking in that sometimes it's just really hard to see the screen in bright light. And I would just point out that the 16 screen is brighter, but to my surprise, it's only a slight improvement. Next, let's talk about tech support. I was going to go into depth on this, but I made a whole video about that, which I've linked below the like button. Just beware though, it was early days and my audio/editing is very bad. Software. Honestly, Apple's software has always been a huge draw for me. I am just going to say, however, that the difference between this iOS and the 16's OS, it's supposed to be different because it can do Apple Intelligence, but frankly, the difference is almost unnoticeable. The one thing the iPhone 16 software does better is Magic Eraser. Sometimes it's very nice and convenient to be able to just erase something. It's still very much a work in progress, it still gets it wrong, but it works well enough to be useful. Not that Image Playground was going to be useful, but I am boycotting it for ethical reasons, and as you know, Siri has gotten notably worse. I think this is partly because of Apple's Faustian bargain with Google, but something Siri should have been doing for a long time was what every Google Home since 2012 has been able to do, which is just read the relevant highlights from top search results. It is a bit of a gamble, but more often than not, it gives me the info that I need to proceed. I say Siri is worse now because at the very least before I would get some search results, now she asks if I want to talk to ChatGPT, which I don't. I do like that they warned me before sending my data to Klepto OpenAI. Next, let's talk about battery. This is one of the biggest weaknesses of iPhones in general. It was one of the major reasons that led to me saying goodbye to my 12. As you may have seen, I did a whole video on an external magnetic power bank for this reason, and something that I've noted is that simply snapping that pack to my phone could have easily added maybe 2 or 3 years of lifespan, were there not all these other issues that I'm mentioning. Honestly, this is something that I really love about MagSafe because it adds a degree of modularity. I'm happy to say that with the 16, generally I end my day with about 20% of battery remaining. Also, I didn't charge my phone last night and it's currently at 40%. So I would also point out that that's including my always on display, which honestly is kind of great. It's about damn time. And just to get on the soapbox for a little bit here, I do not see this as an improvement. 16 iterations in, the iPhone is finally able to handle a single day of heavy use? That should shock and horrify you. These little black squares are our everything devices, and for something that's just as important from banking as it is for hailing a cab or accessing my car fleet, it's shocking to me that it's taken Apple this long for something as simple as a battery being a non-issue. Next, let's talk about ethics and environment. I've talked about this a lot, and I think to a degree it's impossible to be as big as Apple without doing some harm along the way. That said, Apple has made zero effort to improve the lives and working conditions of its workers, instead choosing to pretend that that is Foxconn's problem. As I understand it, the unions, which generally would give these workers the bargaining power and the rights which they should have and very much deserve, have been essentially nerfed by Foxconn. Case in point, when the trade union was formed, the CEO's personal assistant was made chair of that union. It's very obviously a puppet king scenario. It would not be exaggerating to say that these factory complexes look very much like the modern equivalent of slave plantations. The global manufacturing standard needs to move beyond slavery-like, because that's what this is. These people are treated like cattle. Ideally, I'd recommend buying a phone made by Google or a similar mainstream competitor, but Google is also working heavily with Foxconn in India. The only largish phone manufacturer even talking about this issue is Fairphone. That said, right now they aren't shipping to Canada. After doing some research on Fairphone, it does appear they're making strides towards some more reasonable working hours and thriving wages. That said, their workers still live in dormitories. How are you supposed to see your friends and family if you live in a labor camp? How are you supposed to form a union or even hold a union meeting if your employer owns the place where you live? I would say that while Fairphone is making a lot of positive claims, as far as I can tell, these claims have not been verified by an independent third party. Maybe when I have a few thousand subscribers more, I could do some investigative journalism regarding their factories. Summary: the fact that my iPhone 12 lasted as long as it did is great. That in itself makes it more sustainable. It's been a really solid product for the last 5 years, and honestly, were it not for the horrendous ethical concerns that I have, which I'm about to get into, I would say this phone is good for both the consumer and the prosumer market. That said, global manufacturing and especially labor standards needs to improve. Labor camps are not a way of life. The reality of the modern phone industry is that we've really honed this product. For decades, we've made it better and better without giving any thought to the people who died to get the lithium or the people in the factories. The improvement that I need in my iPhone is for it to be a blood-free iPhone. I want an iPhone made entirely of recycled parts, made by workers represented by an actually powerful union. We should have been saying this 20 years ago, when we were still using flip phones, when the industry was younger. And while we're at it, the same goes for the burgeoning AI industry. The innovation that my phone needs is not better screen or longer battery, it's freedom from slavery and environmental destruction. Frankly, it's wild to me that we mythologize the likes of Tim Cook and Jeff Bezos. These people have made so much money, so many jobs, and yet at the same time, the jobs don't pay a living wage to normal people. The work-life balance is mental health crisis inducing, and a trillion-dollar corporation just can't seem to figure out how to make a circular supply chain and recycle its product. Okay, rant over. Thank you for watching all the way to the end of the video. I'm Ben, this is BRBTG, and as always, I will be right back.